Yo, what's good people? Today's patch day and I want to do an updated Soul Zone and back turn guides. I'm going to split the videos, but today we're going to tackle Soul Zone because he's received a lot of changes in Soul Zone. He's received new transitions and new frames and new techniques. So we're going to briefly run over Soul Zone and how it's kind of been updated to showcase Raven's strengths and uniqueness. I'm not going to go through all of Soul Zone's attacks. I'm just going to go through attacks that have actually changed in the patch and how we can further use Soul Zone to benefit us, whether that's in combos, whether that's in OK situations, so on and so forth. So in this video, we're going to go through all the new stuff that Raven received regarding Soul Zone. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, like him, help with the algorithm. Commenting will also help with the algorithm, and subscribing will let me know that you enjoy the content. Let's get into it. Okay, so Raven's Soul Zone kind of still does function the same. So you still press 3+4 to get into the stance, and his transitions can still be accessed with the same input. So, you know, we've got down back 2-1 hold down, we've got down back 2-1 press 3+4. So you can still do those inputs to get into the stance. Now, where he's differed is we're going to go through all of his changes. So I'm going to start with Soul Zone 1. Soul Zone 1 still kind of acts as a combo filler tool. It acts as kind of a checking tool as well. So it's a quick now plus on block high that you can do. So this is actually a plus sequence now. So you're going to see on block that Soul Zone 1 is plus. So that's the main thing to kind of keep in mind, is that this is now plus. So these transitions are a little bit more viable. This is not a frame trap. So Soul Zone 1 forward into QCF 1 is not a frame trap, but still this is a plus on block check tool. So you can actually fish for counter hits now. So if you do Soul Zone 1, for example, so if you do back 1, Soul Zone 1, 1, 2, that's a frame trap. So you're going to see what happens after Raven tries to press after Soul Zone 1. So here's what's going to happen after Soul Zone 1. So he's going to press a jab, right? I'm actually plus here, which is crazy. One thing to mention is that all of his clones, like Soul Zone 3-2 out of Soul Zone 1-4, now they're all -13. So you can throw them out a little bit more. Now, I wouldn't recommend keep throwing them out because, you know, some characters do have crazy 13 frame punishes, but at least you're not going to be launched. You know, Brian could launch Raven for doing Soul Zone 3-2 and Soul Zone 1-4. Paul could launch, Xiao Yu could launch, Mishimas can launch, right? So there's a few characters with standing 14 frame punishes. There's a plethora of characters that have very, very chunky 14 frame standing punishes. Like even Raven has a very chunky one himself, right? Pre-patch, I didn't recommend just throwing clones out, but you can actually throw out more clones if you feel like it's necessary. Soul Zone 3 is insane because he's now -1 on block. So he does this auto teleport. How it acted before is it would always go into back turn like this, right? So obviously it was safe. So you could do in parry, right? You can do whatever you want. How the move functions now is you don't press any input after Soul Zone 3. You will go into front turn, into neutral. So to remain in back turn, you have to hold back like this, right? And then to go into full crouch, you hold down. See? You just hold down to go into full crouch. So that's crazy because a lot of people actually jab here, which I think is really sick. After Soul Zone 3. To check. Now, what's interesting about this is that because this move has been changed to -1 on block, because before it was -4, it was kind of like the same frames as down back 2, but they've actually buffed this move quite significantly to -1 on block. Now, what this means is if you transition into back turn and you do back turn 1, because back turn 1 is 8 frames, right? It's going to beat jabs. So that's actually a plus interaction, which is insane, right? So they can't even jab check this on block. Yes, you can parry, but why would you parry when you can just check now? And then you're +5. That's insane. So Soul Zone 3 is amazing. Soul Zone 3 is really good. And you can really punish people for jab checking now. It's not as free as it was before. And so, yeah, I think Soul Zone 3 is just excellent. Excellent. For mixing is crazy because a lot of the transitions, they will high crush depending on what you do. So like, for example, if you do this in back turn, sometimes that can high crush. The new low can high crush. Well, it is a high crush. It's a true high crush, right? This is just crazy. So this is Soul Zone 3. And then obviously, because all of his clones now are -13, the blue clones, his Soul Zone 3-2 is a bit safer. Now, it still acts the same in combos, right? You can still use it the same way in combos like this. Now, this does actually have some utility in one of Raven's combos, which is counter hit QCF 1. Like, look at this damage. So that's an example of where Soul Zone 3 would be used in combos. So obviously on hit, now you can do more stuff because you're not forced into back turn, right? So you can do, which is just insane. Okay, let's talk about Soul Zone 4. So Soul Zone 4 is now +4 on hit, which is amazing. So better plus frames, right? And on block, it's not launch anymore for the majority of the cast. So it's -14 on block. So we're gonna check that on block and punish off. Soul Zone 4 is -14 on block, point blank, right? Which is awesome. So that means the majority of the cast cannot launch this move. If you space your Soul Zone 4, go back a bit, -7, +11. You see? Insane change. So that's Soul Zone 4. Now on counter hit, it did lose its counter hit, but he still gets some decent damage from Soul Zone 4. I know a lot of people are kind of upset that he lost the counter hit launch, but personally for me, I think this is much more viable as a low now, as a, you know, a power low threat without being launched on block. Like, I just thought that the risk reward was terrible. So I think it not being launched on block, it having more plus frames, it having amazing tracking is enough for it to kind of lose its counter hit launch. Obviously, yes, it still has counter hit knockdown. They can't escape that. You can also do Aqua Spider as well into back turn if you want, you know, slide or whatever you want to do. The move itself is way stronger and it's much more viable to use as a low threat, as a power low threat. So that's Soul Zone 4, which is an amazing buff. Okay, so what they did with Soul Zone 1+2 is the change is they made it a counter hit launcher. So it still acts the same on normal hit, you know, guaranteed follow with back 3, but on counter hit, if we enable counter hit, it insta tailspins now, and the damage is massive. That's already 65 damage. Look at this damage potential. Like, this is insane. Look at the damage. Side switch. So the last change that Soul Zone received is that you can do crouch dash from Soul Zone. Now, sadly, you can't actually cancel this crouch dash, which I think is a bit lame. It does have its uses. It's mainly to do with his hell sweep, right? Because now you can crouch dash out of this hell sweep, which is just insane. And you can catch people either tech rolling or holding forward, because the counterplay to the, you know, traditional Soul Zone 2 and Soul Zone 4 mix would be to hold forward if you got hit with sweep. Okay, so now I'm going to sweep. He's going to roll forward. Soul Zone 4 whiffs, right? Soul Zone 2 whiffs, right? But then what happens if we crouch dash out of Soul Zone? It hits if you do while standing 3+4 out of Soul Zone crouch dash. So this option is insane. And then, for example, if he tech rolls, or if he just gets up, let's say, for example, he just wakes up backwards, right? Now I'm plus in this situation. So if he blocks all after a hit, +5 into full crouch, because this is another buff that they gave him, which is insane, right? So there's way more options for anti hell sweep stuff, which is just insane. The final changes, because I did actually forget about his heat burst and heat smash in Soul Zone. So you can actually do Soul Zone into heat burst, right? So this is gonna alleviate instances where he could just be checked for free. So you can't just check that for free anymore. You can't just check QCF1 Soul Zone for free anymore. And then similarly, you can do heat smash from Soul Zone as well, which is cool as hell with that new animation. So those are his system mechanic changes from Soul Zone. You can do Soul Zone Heat Burst and cancel it as well. This is also useful for converting, you know, with QCF1 counter hit. So I'm going to put counter hit on as well. Personally, for me, I wouldn't really burn this mechanic. Because yes, this is a combo and you can convert, but like, I'd rather just kind of commit to this. So I would say the big thing to kind of take away from this is that this isn't free anymore to mid-check. So there is actually a deterrent for pressing, which is good because a lot of times you would try to fish for counter hit QCF1 and people would just check it because you would have to commit to stance, which you still kind of do have to do. I mean, you can't just burn system mechanics on a safe transition. I think the changes to Soul Zone are actually pretty good, to be honest. So those were all of Raven's Soul Zone changes. We are going to cover back turn as well in a separate video, kind of season 2 update. But yeah, those were Raven's changes in Soul Zone. Let me know if you think that the changes are actually significant. I think Soul Zone 3 is kind of ridiculous. I think that's kind of the major winner of this patch in terms of what he got in Soul Zone. 1+2 is cool, but personally, I didn't really find myself counter hitting people with it. It really pressed. I kind of conditioned people not to press in these situations on hit. Soul Zone 3, man, it's just actually insane. Especially like in conjunction with his other safe tools now, like QCF 1+2. Soul Zone's actually kind of viable now. And I think with Soul Zone 4 not being launched on block, it actually makes the stance threatening now because it's like the risk reward is actually decent for Raven. So again, let me know what you think about Soul Zone changes in season 2. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.